We check in with KTBB owner, General Manager Paul Gleiser with You Tell Me What's on Your Mind, sir.
Good morning, Garth. We are sponsored by KE Cellars, Tyler's Old World Style Boutique Winery in the French Quarter on South Broadway across from the mall. First, an update on the KTBB World Tour to London and the English countryside. Departing November 19th, we're on the home stretch of selling this trip out. Our partner Sharon Carr informs us that Trafalgar Tours has informed her that prices for next season are going up 20% across the board. So this is absolutely the best deal you're going to make on a fabulous trip to England. Stonehenge, Salisbury Cathedral, the charming town of Chester with its intact Roman wall, that was a great surprise for me. Liverpool, and wrapping it all up in the grandeur of London. I took this trip in May. I can tell you it will exceed your expectations. And all of this is for the amazing price of just $22.99 per person. That price includes very nearly everything, but time grows short. The price will never be better, so go to ktbb.com/world tour for a complete itinerary and booking information, and please don't wait. In a speech to the Senate Tuesday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, speaking of negotiations to reduce federal spending and to increase the federal borrowing limit by August 2nd, said, quote, "After years of discussions and months of negotiations, I have little question that as long as this president is in the Oval Office, a real solution is unattainable," end quote. Well, Senator, you are absolutely correct. It is now clear that while President Obama can live with the consequences of failing to raise the debt limit, however dire those consequences turn out to be, he cannot live with anything that might reflect well on Republicans. While the very future of the nation hangs in the balance, the president engages in the most staggeringly cynical political gamesmanship imaginable. With everything on the line, President Obama is using the country's severely deteriorating financial situation as a giant campaign ad. Every press conference, every speech, every public statement that the president makes regarding debt, deficits, spending, or the debt limit contains the same phrases. You've heard them. He likes millionaires and billionaires. That's one of his favorites. The wealthiest Americans, he says. Corporate jet owners. Tax breaks for the rich. These phrases have obviously been focus group tested and are believed to properly evoke the president's voting base, which would be fine if the president were campaigning. But the debate on the debt ceiling and deficit reduction is not a campaign event. It is real world governing. Under our Republican form of government, Republican with a small r, times like these are the very reason the office of president exists. The president knows, and you can go to any of dozens of websites that collate IRS data and discover for yourself, that taxing the wealthiest Americans at 100% of their income will not amount to the rounding error in our nation's $1.6 trillion deficit. The wealthiest Americans and those evil millionaires and billionaires, while constituting fewer than 5% of the population, are already paying nearly 60% of federal income taxes. Ours is not a revenue problem, it's a spending problem. The president knows this, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care because he knows that vilifying the rich, and read that as the most successful Americans, is effective in motivating his far-left base. Winning re-election is what the president cares about, and to do that, he needs his far-left base. He knows that given high unemployment, opposition to Obamacare, anemic growth, a double dip in home prices, and the country's staggering debt, that independents won't break for him the way they did in 2008. So, it's demagoguery over leadership. Not every politician is so staggeringly cynical. It's highly likely that Richard Nixon actually won the 1960 election against John F. Kennedy. His advisors urged him to contest suspect results from Illinois, Texas, and other states. Nixon refused, saying that doing so would trigger a constitutional crisis that would be bad for the country. So think about this. No recent president has been so thoroughly reviled as Richard Nixon. Yet he conceded an election that he had good reason to believe that he had won, purely for the good of the country. So there you have it. Even Richard Nixon's level of statesmanship exceeds the grasp of this president. Mitch McConnell got it so right. That's my word. What's yours? Go to youtellmetexas.com and you tell me. What did Dr. Bob say it was going to be today? 104, 110? It doesn't matter above 100. The weather has changed my wine preferences. I'm normally a committed red wine guy, but when it's this hot, I want something chilled, and toward that end, I have become a huge fan of the Kiepersol Estates 2010 Texas Vit. Now, Vit is nothing more than an Afrikaans word for white. This wine is quickly becoming a favorite of mine. It's a blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon grapes, and it achieves just the level of sweetness that I like without going over the top. Pair it with a summer salad or a piece of broiled fish, and your dinner's complete. Drink it alone just to relax and get some relief from the heat. You can even pour it over ice for true refreshment. Visit KE Cellars and tell them I said to pour you a tasting sample of the Kiepersol Estate Texas Vit. You can do that because KE Cellars is a working winery with a tasting bar. Try any wine in the collection before you buy it. KE Cellars, Tyler's old world-style boutique winery in the French Quarter on South Broadway across from the mall, and online at KECellars.com.